Good evening, everyone. My name is Jennifer Andrews, and I am the Director of Early Childhood Strategies for Chattanooga 2.0. And you are here to hear about a new Kindergarten Ready campaign that we have in Hamilton County, Tennessee. So to get started, if everyone wouldn't mind putting their name and organization in the chat, just as a way for me to kind of see who's here, sign in, if you will. I'll put that there. And then we'll get started. Okay, preparing children and their families for kindergarten in Hamilton County. So you all are here, and today we're going to cover four main things: defining what it means to be ready for kindergarten, why we care about kids being ready for kindergarten, activities and resources that early childhood teachers can share with families, and then more resources that we have for childcare teachers. So first, what is Chattanooga 2.0? So we are a dynamic nonprofit organization, and we unite partners across different sectors. That's nonprofit, public, educational spheres, and we aim to impact generational changes by removing systemic barriers and providing intentional supports to children, students, and their families. So we believe that every child matters, like I'm sure most of you do as well. Our ultimate goal is to improve economic opportunity and quality of life in Chattanooga, Hamilton County, and we believe that educational attainment is the first step. If you are just joining us from the waiting room, if you would enter your name and organization in the chat as a way to check in. So Chattanooga 2.0 is a birth to career collective impact, is the fancy jargony name for it. And my space is this early childhood birth to age 8. And as part of that, I have the joy of getting to lead the Early Matters Coalition. And we are 40 organizations who are invested in the well-being of children, from physical health, mental health, and nutrition organizations, pediatricians, early learning and development. So we have some childcare. We also have informal educators like Creative Discovery Museum and the library and the zoo. And then we have family leadership and support. And then undergirding all of that is early intervention, because we know that the earlier you intervene, the better. And what we aim to do is create a more coordinated and aligned early childhood system, because for as many of you as there are on this call, you probably heard about this webinar in 10 different ways, because there is no one coordinating entity for early childhood like there is for K through 12. The school system can connect healthcare providers and parents and education, and we just don't have that for early childhood. So that's what Early Matters attempts to do. And one of the things that we are working on is something called the Quality Matters Fund. And I have a few things I'm going to share with you in terms of resources first. But that is a big project of Early Matters. Another thing that we have is a working group that's focused on policy and advocacy. And that involves going to the state legislature and advocating for bills that would increase investments in early childhood, advocating for you all as early childhood educators, increased pay and benefits, all things advocating for early childhood. We also are working on quality early childhood health access. We're working with some Harvard grad students on a kind of state of the early childhood health system in Hamilton County. We're also doing some nutrition needs assessments. We have many strategies in the Early Childhood Action Plan that we launched in 2022. And this Kindergarten Readiness Campaign is one of them. And then we're also looking at the reason that you all are here is kindergarten readiness. So the Quality Matters Fund is money that we got from city government in Chattanooga to support the recruitment and retention of child care providers in Hamilton County. And one of the ways that we are doing that is through tuition assistance. We started this in the fall of last year and it's going through this summer. So childcare teachers working in Hamilton County can take, at this point, any classes through the end of this summer at Chattanooga State and the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga and get up to $2,500 in tuition assistance as long as you pass the class. So if you are interested in that or is the first time you're hearing about it, you can learn more at chat2.org/QMF. Okay, the reason that you all are here is to hear about this kindergarten campaign. Let me get the screens are messing up here. There we go. Okay, so ready, set, kindergarten. So I'm gonna start you all off with kind of a thought feeling exercise. So what does the first day of kindergarten look like for a school? This is East Brainerd, where one of my colleagues used to be assistant principal. And we talk about how the first day of kindergarten for a school is very, there's a lot of nerves, a lot of emotions, both for the adult and also for the students. And so you've got little kindergartners who come in, who are all bold, bold and sass, and they're super confident and they sit right down and they're ready to go. And then you have, the ones with the sniffles and the wobbly knees. And then you have those who are experts at opening the milk cartons and the ketchup packets and those that have never done it before. And then you have the screamers, then you've got the runners. And it's just kind of a mixed bag. So it's different depending on the different child. And then you think about what does the first day of kindergarten look like for a family? This is my son, Wallace. Full disclosure, he's a kindergartner this year. And we thought, we're blessed that he was able to go to 2 great early education programs in his first 5 years of life. And when he was in pre-K, we thought that he was ready and that we had done all we could at home, but we didn't know. And that is a similar experience for parents all over Hamilton County and Chattanooga, because until now, there has not been a definition of what does it really mean to be ready for kindergarten. So parents have been kind of left to wonder and hope. And same for childcare teachers. We received feedback that you are such an integral part of a child's family, especially if you've been with them since they were babies. I know that my kids on some days definitely preferred their childcare teachers to me. But you also kind of just hope for the best when you send them off to kindergarten, and then there's no feedback loop to know whether or not, unless the family comes back and tells you how they're doing. So I wanted to start, before I jump into the definition and what the skills list is, which is available on the website, with what we share with other people in the community about the important role that you all play in early childhood, and talk about some brain basics. So a lot of you probably know this because you're early childhood experts, but children's brains grow to 90% of their adult size by the age of 5. However, early childhood experiences are vastly different from child to child. And so this is a 2-minute video. It's the only video I'm going to show. Bear with me if you've already seen it, but I think it beautifully illustrates how a lot of what these kindergarten skills are that I'm going to share with you are developed in early childhood. Let me know if you can't hear it.
Science tells us that the experiences we have in the first years of our lives actually affect the physical architecture of the developing brain. This means that brains aren't just born, they're also built over time based on our experiences. Just as a house needs a sturdy foundation to support the walls and roof, a brain needs a good base to support all future development. Positive interactions between young children and their caregivers literally build the architecture of the developing brain. Building a sturdy foundation in the earliest years provides a good base for a lifetime of good mental function and better overall health. So just how is a solid brain foundation built and maintained in a developing child? One way is through what brain experts call serve and return interactions. Imagine a tennis match between a caregiver and a child, but instead of hitting a ball back and forth across a net, various forms of communication pass between the two, from eye contact to touch, from singing to simple games like peekaboo. These interactions, repeated throughout a young person's developing years, are the bricks that build a healthy foundation for all future development. But another kind of childhood experience shapes brain development too, and that's stress. Good kinds of stress, like meeting new people or studying for a test, are healthy for development because they prepare kids to cope with future challenges. Another kind of stress, called toxic stress, is bad for brain development. If a child is exposed to serious ongoing hardships like abuse and neglect, and he has no other caregiver in his life to provide support, the basic structures of his developing brain may be damaged. Without a sturdy foundation to properly support future development, he is at risk for a lifetime of health problems, development issues, even addiction. It's possible to fix some of the damage of toxic stress later on, but it's easier, more effective, and less expensive to build solid brain architecture in the first place. One of the things building sturdy brain architecture supports is the development of basic emotional and social skills, an important group of skills which scientists call executive function and self-regulation, can be thought of like air traffic control in the child's mental airspace. Think of a young child's brain as the control tower at a busy airport, all those planes landing and taking off, and all of the support systems on the ground simultaneously demand the controller's attention to avoid a crash. It's the same with a young child learning to pay attention, plan ahead, and remember and follow lots of rules. Like all of us, kids have to react to things happening in the world around them, while also dealing with worries, temptations, and obligations on their mind. As these demands for attention pile up, air traffic control helps a child regulate the flow of information, prioritize tasks, and above all, find ways to manage stress and avoid mental collisions along the way. Having this ability is a necessity for positive and level mental health. Developing effective air traffic control, overcoming toxic stress, and building solid brain architecture are things kids can't do on their own. And since strong societies are made up of healthy, contributing individuals, it's up to us as a community to make sure all young people have the kinds of nurturing experiences they need for positive development. To build better futures, we need to build better brains.
Okay. Some of you might have seen that before, but if not, I hope that you got something out of that. So the key takeaway for me is that sometimes you all, as early educators, are the most consistent thing in a child's life before kindergarten. And I don't think that can be understated, the importance. So a couple of other things. In Tennessee, I think you might have been living under a rock if you have not heard of the last few years, the emphasis on literacy and children being on grade level and children being withheld and having to take the TCAP and just all of the stress that our little elementary school children are under. And so one of Chattanooga 2.0's priority areas is literacy. I have a colleague who is the director of literacy and student strategies. And we talk a lot about emergent literacy skills, or foundational literacy skills is another way that you might hear it. And those can be developed in the classroom. And if this is a graphic from Lena, who does the talk boxes, and they measure conversational turns, but it stresses that learning to read and write starts earlier than you think. In infants, when you're just talking, the saying sounds. When they're toddlers, you're talking words. And preschools, they're saying as preschoolers and pre-K classrooms, they're saying full sentences. And then conversational turns are also helping children learn to read and write because it's helping with phoneme awareness, that sounds that words and letters are making. That's before they go on to read words and spell, and then read and write sentences in the classroom. So emergent pre-readers, Dr. Marianne Wolf is a children's literacy advocate, and she shares that reading doesn't just happen to anyone. The emergent pre-reader samples and learns from a full range of multiple sounds, words, concepts, images, stories, exposure to print, like books, literacy materials, and just plain talk during the first 5 years of life. And Many of you on the call, you might have a variety of different curriculums that you use in the classroom, or maybe you don't use a particular curriculum. But some of the things to do in the classroom to help with those emergent literacy skills are things like rhyming, so nursery rhyme songs, rhyming games, discussing the content of books, identifying letters in print or in your name. Jennifer, what's your special letter? My special letter is J. Things that I have heard you all say in the classroom. Building children's background knowledge. So the more words that they know before kindergarten, the easier time they have making sense of words when they begin to read them. So if they have never heard any of the terminology about baseball, then when they're reading a passage about baseball, then running the bases and making a home run might not make any sense to them. And then beginning letter sounds, pre-writing being things like Play-Doh and scribble drawings. These are not things necessarily to share with families, but just identifying some of the stuff that you're doing in the classroom. CCR&R, Child Care Resource and Referral, has tons of different trainings if you want additional resources there. And then I also have some for you at the end of this presentation that I'm going to be emailing out afterward. So getting things right the first time is easier than trying to fix them later. This shows the way that different sensory pathways and other things are developed in the brain. So you see on the left-hand side, before a baby is born, when they're in utero, things that are being developed like vision and hearing. In that green box, the first 2 years of life, language is being developed. Then they, get to 2 years old, 3 years old, higher cognitive function. And then notice right here is about where you all are in the pre-K classroom. That is where you've got higher cognitive function and kids are just beginning to be able to grasp self-regulation. And that's when you guys are doing all of that beautiful stuff I've seen you do, like, can you trace the ladybug up and down the mountain? And can you blow out the candles with your fingers? Brilliant stuff that I have copied and used with my own 2 young children in the house in terms of self-regulation. Executive skills are things when we go out in the community and we're talking to businesses about why childcare is so important. We talk to them about soft skills that they're looking for from all of the people coming to in the workforce. Things like focus and attention, organization, working memory, initiative, persistence, flexibility, problem solving, and then inhibition and emotion control, not, having a freak out and screaming at your boss and stomping out the door. All of those things begin to be developed in early childhood in pre-K classrooms. So again, thank you all for everything you're doing for those little 4 and 5-year-olds. So without further ado, the campaign for Kindergarten Ready. A little bit of history here. We didn't just wake up one day and say this is what it means to be ready for kindergarten. So in spring of 2022, early educators like yourselves and families shared with us the need for guidance and clarity around kindergarten readiness. And then we launched the Early Childhood Action Plan that I mentioned in fall of 2022. And kindergarten transition and alignment was one of the key strategies. In January of last year, we had this cross-sector meeting where we brought together early childhood, K-12, post-secondary educators and experts to share input around definition of kindergarten readiness. We asked them, we looked at examples. So Tennessee does not have a standard definition of what it means to be ready for kindergarten. They have something called the early learning domains, but not something that says a child is ready for kindergarten if they can do these 3 things. So we took skills lists and definitions from surrounding areas like Virginia and Georgia and other places, along with the CDC checklists, and compiled all those, got feedback from the group. And then we began to take that list and talk to pediatricians and early childhood researchers, our friends at Harvard Children's Institute and Vanderbilt Children's and UT Knoxville and local pediatricians, and said, okay, are all these things that we're expecting of kindergartners developmentally appropriate? And are they realistic? Things that could be expected of kids without resulting in any punitive action, such, for example, not including something like sit still and listen to a story, because it's unrealistic for a 4-year-old to sit still while they listen to a story. It's not technically developmentally appropriate. So in April of 2023, we finalized the definition of skills and then updated the Ready Set Kindergarten booklet that Hamilton County Schools. These are just some pictures of the session where we did a workshop to kind of come up with the definition. So then we took those skills lists and we did a survey and focus groups of kindergarten teachers in Hamilton County, all over the county, and said, how would you prioritize these skills in terms of on the first day of kindergarten, what skills does the child come in with that you see them have the greatest success and the easiest time in kindergarten? And they said social and emotional development was number one. Independence and self-help skills were number two. And I will flag here that in childcare classrooms, I think the ratio is 1 to 16. In kindergarten, in a public kindergarten classroom in Tennessee, it's 1 teacher to 25 children. So they definitely need children to have some sort of, it is helpful for that child to have some sort of coping skills, being able to, at a minimum, name and describe their emotions. I'm hungry, I'm mad, I'm sad, I don't feel good. Independence and self-help skills, that 1 teacher to 25 children needs those children to be able to use the bathroom by themselves and put on their jacket and zip it up, cut papers by themselves. The other things they talked about were language and communication skills, pre-K or school experience, eagerness to learn, and then grit and persistence. And then we also asked them, what skills do you see that have been lacking when children are coming into kindergarten lately? And what was surprising for me, maybe not surprising for you all who work with kids every day, is they said that fine motor skills are the number one thing that has been lacking, because kids do a lot more of this on a device or a tablet and a lot less working with Play-Doh and crayons and sand, which is actually one of those emergent literacy skills, or where they are preparing to hold a pencil later in life. The other things that they said have been lacking are general social skills, ability to solve problems without giving up on the first try and trying again, independence, listening and comprehension, and alphabet and number knowledge. But they said by far they felt that they could teach the ABCs and the 1, 2, 3s if children could have mastered some independent skills, being able to carry a lunch tray on their own, being able to open a milk carton, and also being able to at least name their emotions that they. So how do we define kindergarten ready? I'm juggling screens and all that. So if you have an immediate question, feel free to come off me. But how do we define kindergarten ready? So the definition that we landed on was children will grow into strong learners and adults when we support their brain growth before and after kindergarten. In Hamilton County, we aspire that every rising kindergartner is physically, socially, emotionally, and intellectually prepared for success in kindergarten. So to do this, they need families, schools, and community to provide a strong foundation in the 5 skill areas, which mirror and match the 5 learning domains and early learning domains that Hamilton County Schools pre-K and the state of Tennessee outline. So the K-Ready definition and skills list, here are some things that they are not. So it is not an assessment. I know many of you use an assessment in the classroom, and this is not meant to replace that. This is a sheet for parents. It can benefit you if you choose in the classroom, but it's not meant to be an assessment. It's also not a formal requirement of Hamilton County Schools. They've not said kids must have all of these mastered before they start kindergarten. But they did collaborate with us on this, with us, and have requested to co-brand because they think it's really important. It's also not an exhaustive list of skills for success in kindergarten. We have an entire other list of skills to grow on, but we felt like 5 skills per domain was overwhelming enough for parents. But if you just have a a child who is just ready for the next level, we do have that next level of skills that we can share. And then it's not a reason to think a student is failing before they start. It's not something to start the month before kindergarten. So ideally, this is going to be something that you hand to a parent at the beginning of the pre-K year and say, we're working on great stuff in the classroom to get your little one ready for kindergarten, but you can also be helping with this at home. And here are some of the things that you can do. And it's also not a replacement for general love, adult conversation back and forth with a child and play. In fact, many of the skills are best developed during play. What this skills list is a guide to engage families in building their child's skills for school. It is a starting place to explore where a child may need more activities to build on a skill. It's a list of developmentally appropriate skills to work on at home, and it is an alignment between early educators so that you all know what the school district is saying kids will have the most success in kindergarten if they have these skills, the school district, and then also parents. So this is the flyer that I can email to you all. It's also available on the website at chat2.org/KReady. It's got the definition and the skills list. And everywhere on the website and every resource, we have attempted to call out that these are appropriate for 4 and 5-year-old students, rising kindergarten students to work on. And that if you feel like, if you have any questions, a pediatrician is the best place to go if you feel like your child has a developmental delay, or you just have any general questions, because one of the healthy foundations is to go get your dental, vision, and hearing screenings anyway. So it's a great idea for parents to talk with their pediatrician about their concerns. So children must be 5 years old before they start kindergarten in Hamilton County, and these skills are developmentally appropriate for 4 and 5-year-old children. However, not all skills and domains develop at the same time. So one child might be great at language and less so on math. Another might be, great in terms of their math skills and less so on language. So it just depends. And so they might be delayed on self-help and movement or still working on those. So when you're sharing it with parents, just remember to mention that every child is unique and they grow at their own pace. And in the end, kindergarten teachers are well equipped to handle a child no matter how they come to the classroom. So I'm going to go through the skills really quickly, but they're also on the website. Sleep is a big one. When we talk to Hamilton County Schools, they talk about how much they wish children got enough sleep every night. Some of you might also be seeing this in the childcare classroom. But eating well, so getting nutrition, leads to more stable moods, increased ability to pay attention, and improved memory. And we're also encouraging families to get their recommended hearing, dental, and vision screenings, because dental issues actually add a lot of trauma and impact to how children show up academically in the classroom. But it's also just a good practice to get a dental and vision screening before, so you can make sure that your kiddo can see the board. In terms of language skills, these are the ones that we narrow them down to with input from kindergarten teachers. Listening to a story, answering questions, knowing ABCs, drawing a picture and telling a story about it, even if it looks like scribbles to an adult. I think that's important for parents to know too. Even if it looks like scribbles, if they can tell you a story about it, that's really important. Recognizing their written name. Kindergarten teachers identified this one because they have their name all over the place, and knowing like if your name is on your backpack, if it's on your seat, if it's on your locker, being able to see their name is important. Noticing words that rhyme, bat, cat, ball, tall, and then making up nonsense rhymes. Doodle, 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 things that kids have a ton of fun doing, but that's a really great emergent language skill. And then speaking in complete sentences of 6 to 8 words that can be understood by a stranger. Math, counting to 30, which is the same as the pre-K standards at Hamilton County Schools, pointing to and counting to 10 objects individually as you touch them, knowing colors and shapes, describing positions, up, down, left, right, behind, beside, and then recognizing and repeating simple patterns such as star moon, which one comes next? Learning, this is a harder one, but and it's also sometimes called approaches to learning, but I can follow directions to complete a task. I can play by myself, but also with other children my age. I show curiosity by asking who, what, when, where, why, what if questions. I mean, that one is just a given. I don't know a 4-year-old who isn't asking why, or maybe that is just my children, but other ones, eager to try new experiences and focusing on completing an activity. Self-help and movement skills are walking with control and balance, using pencils and crayons to trace things, and scissors to cut. Scissors is a big one. We're using this in some of the advertisements because I think parents don't know what you all do, and that children are capable of a lot more than we give them credit for. And one time my child asked me to use scissors, and I said, absolutely not. And he said, why? I use scissors at school all the time. And I said, what, you do? I didn't know he knew how to use scissors. But if they're not in an early childhood program, parents might not be giving children opportunities to practice that. They might not be letting them carry the bowl of cereal from the counter to the table. But those are really important things because they're going to have to be doing them as soon as they get to kindergarten in the lunchroom, etc. Buttons and zippers, dress on my own, use hand-eye coordination to put together a puzzle, and then brushing teeth, washing hands, all of that by themselves when an adult asks them to. I think most adult males don't even wash their hands right unless you ask them to. So I'm just saying, but when you ask them to, they can do it by themselves. And then emotional and social skills. I think these are pretty self-explanatory, but sharing, taking turns, helping, complimenting, playing well with friends. Once they're 5, it's developmentally appropriate to adjust to changes in routine and environment without having an absolute meltdown. Not so much when they're 4, but when they are 5, having trust that the teacher in the classroom will safely get them from one place to another. Using words to describe their emotions, happy, sad, hungry, seeking and guiding acceptance from caregivers and teachers, and then knowing their full name. Address, they took out because children change addresses all the time. But knowing your reliable adult names and then their full name, kindergarten teachers shared that a lot of kiddos are coming in and the teacher says, what's your name? And I say, baby girl. And she says, no, that's what your mom calls you. That's not your name. And so making sure that they know what their name is an important one that kindergarten teachers expressed. And then I love this quote. If you've not read the book by Dana Suskind, I highly recommend, called Parent Nation. But all of this is important because in a large study of more than 2,000 ethnically diverse low-income families, a child's early learning environment, including the quality of how they interact with their parents in those conversational turns, predicted their academic skills in 5th grade. And those who are ready for school at age 5 had a better chance of reaching the middle class by the time they were 40. And the reason is because skills build on skills, increasing in strength and solidarity as they go. To break that down, skills build on skills. Once a baby learns to crawl, they don't unlearn to crawl. They go on to the next thing. They begin pulling up. They walk. They don't unlearn to walk. So once they've mastered something, their kids are moving on to the next thing. And so it's important to start early. But we want to give them as many skills as we can before they get to kindergarten. So what can you share with families? We've got a website that you can go to with activities listed. We're going to be recording more videos with partners in the community, the library, Creative Discovery Museum, other teachers. If any of you all are interested, if you've got an activity that you think parents could easily do at home that would really help build a particular skill, and you are willing to be videoed to share it in 60 to 90 seconds, we'd love to put it on the website so that we can kind of create this village of support to help build those skills for young children. We've got rack cards with the skills listed for partners in the community to hand out for parents. Dr. Lindbergh talked about the skills that are indexed in the lesson plan toolkit. PBS, our local PBS station, is amazing. They went and took every single one of the skills on the list and found either an episode or a game or something else in their on their website that that supports that skill. So if you don't have a paper activity you can do, or a parent just wants to do something educational to build a skill, PBS has linked those. And then Tennessee Voices also has free classes for parents if they are struggling or just need some help with kids with challenging behaviors as well. And then we have the skills lists, the flyer, and the activity booklet on the website available in Spanish as well. I'm going to just show you a preview really quickly. This is what the website looks like. We went with the bubble theme. We've gotten positive feedback on it so far. This is the rack card. We have the activity booklet. Working to get some printed, and we'll continue to try and find funding so that we can get some of these out to the child care providers in the community. But if you're interested in just ordering some, let me know and I can send you a link to do that. Or you can download the PDF and just share it and print particular pages for families. The booklet does have an intro letter from the co-chairs of our children's cabinet that Chattanooga 2.0 leads. So the county mayor, the city mayor, city of Chattanooga mayor, and the superintendent talking about the importance of kindergarten and a message to parents. The booklet this year also has things in it. So you'll see a page to kick off the domain telling parents, this is why health and nutrition is important for your child's brain. These are some ways that you can develop these skills at home. And then there are activity pages, as many coloring pages as we can fit in there for kids, but then other matching and math activities that they can do in the book as well. And then one on self-care for adults, because parenting is hard. Being an adult in general is hard, but parenting is hard. And so we want to remind parents that one of the best things you can do is just take a break, dance, get enough sleep, drink some water, take care of yourself so that you can take care of your kids. And then we're also doing the social media campaign, which you might see, and we're going to also have billboards around town over the next year as kind of an evergreen campaign to get parents to go